By the end of today's episode, you'll know how to break free from self-doubt, make bold acting choices on self-tapes, and build confidence no matter your age or experience. Welcome to the Actor's Career Compass, where we help aspiring screen actors find high-quality auditions, sign with great agents, and book major roles in legit productions. My name is Martin Benson, and today I have the opportunity to interview an amazing acting coach, Joshua Nelson. And in the interview, we're going to be discussing why you're never too old to start acting professionally, the difference between playing a character and being one on camera, and some practical at-home training tools for when you can't afford classes or if you live in a remote area. We also discuss a whole bunch of other things as well. Ready to dive in? Joshua Nelson is an award-winning actor, writer, and director with over 30 years of experience in the acting business. And he's the owner of LaGuardia Acting Studio in Rockaway, New Jersey. Thanks so much for joining me. How have you?
Thank you. It is my pleasure to be here.
Yeah, it's it's good to see you again. I think I had interviewed you, or not interview maybe, but I asked you some questions for an article that I've done a few times. You
Yes,
provided some quotes, and
yes.
you have an amazing studio in New Jersey.
Thank you.
So as someone who's been doing this for a long time, like coaching actors, working with them,
Mhm.
my first question is just because people are probably curious, like what do you think is one or some of the most helpful pieces of advice that you've shared with students in your class when it comes to acting?
Okay, is this in regard to the art itself or the
It,
business?
it could be both. That's a good question. It could be both. It could even be mindset or whatever. Just because obviously when people are listening or watching this,
Right.
they're not really in an acting class. So it's kind of
Okay,
like, what are some takeaways that I could apply
sure.
to my career or acting in
Okay.
general?
So uh, it starts with either a dream, like I see myself on TV, I want to be in a movie, I want to be on Broadway, and you have to have the guts to follow that dream because a lot of people will tell you that's ridiculous or it's too hard and blah blah blah. So it starts with wanting it and then having a nerve because it takes a lot of nerve to do this to try to pursue it. The other side of that is there's a lot of people who are so curious, always wanted to try it. People say I should be an actor or I could do that. And what I tell people is if you really want to try it, try it. You don't have to do a lifelong commitment. I have people that come to me in their 40s and 50s, and they're like, I just wanted to do this earlier in life, but I either life got in the way or I just never thought I could. You don't want to regret not trying. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But trying it out is something that I think will be very useful to your soul, as it were.
Mhm.
Um, After that, the next two little bits of advice: don't do it to get rich and don't do it for the money because while anything's possible and it could happen overnight, the odds are it's going to be a long haul. It's a very difficult industry. It's a very hard industry to make a living, hard industry to pay all your bills, at least in the beginning. So you have to enjoy it. If you enjoy the acting, then it's not such a burden to be pursuing this because you're doing something you love. But if you're doing it and your goal and your mindset is I got to book a job, I got to get an agent, I got that kind of pressure is going to make your life miserable because it's difficult. It's very difficult.
Yeah, definitely good pieces of advice there, especially talking about, you said like, oh, in 40s, 50s, even 60s, and
Hmm.
something I think people who are listening to this might be thinking about is, oh, I am in that situation. Is that okay, right? And
Hmm.
the thing is that casting directors and agents, it's not uncommon at all for actors to be in that age range, and they're not going to look down upon you or be like, oh, you're not a good actor if they see a big long gap, like if you did it when you were much younger and now older. So don't worry
No,
about that if you're listening to this thinking about that.
absolutely. If I could just touch on that really quick, because I speak to so many casting directors all the time. Actors do start at any age. You are never too old to start. I know people that have started in their 70s and they're working. So it's not like a normal job. They still need everyone at every age. Now, if you're 50, if you're 60 and you want to start out and you've got nothing on your resume, that is okay as long as people know you're new to the business. If there's the impression that I've been doing this for 40, 50 years and I've never booked a job, that's going to look bad. But you can indicate on a resume or verbally, I'm starting my career over, I'm new to this, and you will never be judged in a negative way.
Yeah, that's a great piece of advice. So don't be afraid, basically, to tell people the truth. They're going to
Correct.
appreciate it more uh,
Yes.
than trying to fake that you've been for a long time and
Yes.
having it
Yes.
backfire.
Yes.
Um, nice. Well, my next question now is more on the technique side, right? So,
Sure.
what would you say are some of the major mistakes that you've seen actors making in their performances?
Absolutely. So the first and the biggest mistake that I see is when actors say, "Well, I'm trying to show this. I'm trying to play it this way." Once you're trying to show something, that's a performance, aka that's fake. So what I tell everyone is, don't try to read the lines angry. Don't try to look sad. You've got to go way more internal and feel it. Because when the actors say to me, "Do I look angry enough? Do I look like I'm in love?" I'll say, "Well, what do you feel? Do you feel angry? Do you feel like you're in love?" Because it is never from the outside in. It's all from the inside out. And the very core of what I teach people is you've got to be real. You don't want to play angry. You want to be angry. You don't want to play, sad and depressed and make a face. You want to connect to something that brings you there because when it's truthful, it doesn't matter how it looks. So I tell people don't act it, just be it.
Mhm. Yeah, that's a whole indication thing. It's like if you're showing an emotion, why are you showing it? Is
Right,
it because you're trying to get a reaction out of the other character in the scene? If so, that's okay. But is it because I want to show the audience? That's
right.
not okay.
No, if you once you're showing it and not feeling it, you're on the wrong track
Mhm. Yeah,
completely.
I always like to say in real life, right? We oftentimes try to hide our emotions. Like we're not
Yes.
like making everybody know. We usually are more internal, and that's actually
Yeah.
interesting to watch.
Oh, absolutely. Subtlety and nuance and trying to hide what's real and cover it, even though it's there, that is looks great on camera.
Mhm.
So much stronger.
Now, can I ask you, because some of the actors who are listening or watching to this may be more in theater.
Mhm.
And so, how does this kind of relate to the idea of showing versus hiding your emotions in
Sure.
theater versus film? Is there as big of a difference as people usually think, or is it actually more similar? What's your
Absolutely. So I'm theater based. All my training was Stanislavski and Strasberg. I worked with teachers who worked with Lee Strasberg. So they taught me, and I came up in theater. And then I transferred to film and television. And for some actors, that's a difficult transition because in theater, you have to make sure the people in the back row hear you, see your expression. So everything has to be bigger. I still think you should be truthful, but you just due to the logistics of being on stage, you've got to be louder, you've got to be bigger. Now the television and film, it's the opposite. That is coming into you. That's a magnifying glass. So in theater, where I have to show people what I'm feeling, even though I'm feeling it, in film and TV, you think it. And the camera comes in and absorbs it out of you. It comes out of your eyes. So people sometimes have the tendency when I say you're too big, you're too big for camera, they shrink what they're feeling and they shrink their energy, and that's not it. The same energy, the same emotions, but we bring it down. We keep it, we internalize it more and let it come out of our eyes, let it come out of our energy really. And you don't want to shrink what you're feeling. You just want to shrink how much we see. It's like if you're at church and with a mother and a child and the child's acting up, the mother just has to give a quick look and that child will understand. Oops, sorry. She doesn't have to make a big thing out of it. is the gift of film and TV. You don't change what you feel, you just change how much you let out, vocally and, physically as well.
Yeah, that that makes a lot of sense. Is very interesting when you kind of think about it, how like the it's sort of almost in a sense as a as an actor, you should leave that choice to the director. Like you just kind of behave the way that you would if this
Hmm.
were a situation happening in real
Hmm.
life.
Correct.
And then the director can be like, I want to push the camera in closer, or the director can tell you, hey, that does need to actually be like you need to speak slightly louder or something to the
Sure.
microphone. But
Sure.
you shouldn't be necessarily the one to make that decision. You should just play it as if I were in this situation in real life and this were happening, how might I be? Would you say?
Right.
Okay.
That's exactly it. You actors are the one requirement you have to have for yourself is you need to make a choice. You don't just play anything safe and bland and unseasoned. You say, this is why my character feels this way. This is why he or she is reacting this way. And this is how I'm going to portray this. Then, just as you said, it is the director's job to say, that's perfect. I need it bigger. I need it smaller. You're in the totally wrong place. That's fine because an actor's job is to do what the director tells them. But it is incumbent on the actor to make a choice of everything they do. And when you're doing auditions, you're doing self-tapes, you have no director. So you have to be able to direct yourself up into that point when someone else tells you what they want. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that that's really good that you brought up the self tapes because obviously that can be a sticking point for a lot of actors if they're like,
Hmm.
especially when you're having to create an audition tape for a character and you're given minimal instructions, right? You're like,
Hmm.
well, what do they want?
Right.
So in this case, you just have to make decisions yourself. And even
Correct.
if they're wrong, though, that's not necessarily directly going to disqualify you
Nope.
because the casting director assumes that you don't know because they didn't include that information, right? So,
Right. Absolutely. And what casting directors have told me now for years, you make a good choice, fine. You make a bad choice, fine. You make no choice and we don't like it.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it's almost like if we were to relate it to headshots, as you
Hmm.
know, we've done headshots and stuff like
Sure.
that.
Sure.
When someone comes in and they're just trying to do a very generalized headshot, it's like, oh, I'm just gonna wear like a t-shirt and try to do like an expression that can capture every character so I can submit to everything. It's like that's gonna be significantly less effective for you than doing
Correct.
a few different specific characters and then
Correct.
submitting to the roles that you're right for. So in this case, you're like, let's just make one, be very specific with the choices that we make here. Even if they're wrong, that's okay because the performance will still be real enough and interesting enough to make the
Sure.
casting director be like, hey, I like that. I'm going to give you a call back. Here's
Yeah.
more instructions.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you'd go into the room for an audition pre-COVID, very often, not always, but very often the casting director would, you do something and say, yeah, try it this way, try it that way, or they give you some advice beforehand. But you couldn't be more accurate. You'll get an audition, you'll get a basic breakdown, you'll get a scene, you'll have no knowledge of what they want or who this person is, and you have to read it, interpret it, and say, okay, this is how I'm going to play this with a specific choice. You never want to just play it safe because that's not going to be memorable.
Mhm. Awesome. So my next question is there's obviously actors can take acting classes, they can work with coaches, but there's still plenty of actors. In some cases, they're either not in a location that's nearby to acting
Mhm.
classes, and so or it's out of their budget currently. And
Mhm.
so, just for actors in those types of situations, or who just want to practice on their
Sure.
own, sometimes,
Sure.
do you have some recommendations on what they can do to kind of improve their acting ability, even when they're not in a classroom setting or with a coach?
Yeah. So acting is one of those things that it's sometimes hard to do on your own. It's like reading a book on driving is very different than driving. So a lot of people tell me like, I read all these books. It's good. It's a good supplement, but it's hard. If you cannot get in class, and I recommend class whenever you can, because it's like going to a gym. You're working out the muscle, but it's going to the gym with a trainer. Um, I think there's two things. One, anything you can do to act, to work, community theater, student films, even things that may not seem prestigious. It's great. Work is great training. I tell people, you come to me to learn acting, but the real world's going to make you an actor. I cannot make you an actor or an actress. Only the real world can do that. Working out in film, theater, television, commercials, what have you. So anything you can do, in every town in the whole country has community theater and things of that nature. I say to do that. Now, when my students are like, I just want to do something, help me to practice at home, I tell them, you have a cell phone, tape a monologue. Because if you don't have someone to read lines with, tape a monologue and then watch it and then critique it. Are you believable? Are you honest? Do you look like you're searching for the lines? Do you really feel like you're talking to someone? People who don't always like to watch themselves, but it's such an important thing. You watch yourself and you can start to critique yourself and say, okay, I'm doing this wrong. Let me fix that. Let me fix that. It's something. It's something.
No, I definitely agree. One thing that I've recommended is basically that, but see if you can get like a friend or a family member to sit
Hmm.
down and watch it with you. Because when you have someone sitting next to you and you're watching yourself, you get like a hypercritical.
Yeah, it's true. And different people have different opinions, and sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad, but you have to be used to things like that.
Mhm.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I also loved what you said about the getting out there in the real world, because it's almost like with business too, you know, like you can read and study and work with the best
Hmm.
business coaches in the world and implement what they teach, but
Hmm.
the market isn't going to tell you results. Once you make that change on your website, you'll see whether people actually start buying or not.
Correct,
The same
correct.
thing with acting. It's like you have to put it out there and
Yeah,
see and actually submit yourself to auditions consistently. A lot of
yeah,
actors have it in their mind like, oh, I don't know if I'm ready yet to really start submitting for things. And in my opinion, at bare minimum, student films and small independent productions
yeah.
need
That's
to
part
start
of the
doing
learning
some stuff.
process.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. And there's no like, okay, I'm gonna go to college, then I'm gonna go to law school, and that doesn't apply in acting. There is no like certain levels of schooling that you're training and you're taking class to build confidence and knowledge and get that muscle strong, but you've got to work it. You've got to apply it in the real world. It's going to be good times and bad times, but all of it is a different type of training that's super necessary.
Hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Well, is there any other advice that you'd like to share with actors who might be listening to this?
Sure. Um, a lot of people think it's easy. I've so many people that sit home, they go, I could do that. And then they get in class and they're like, wait a minute, everyone's looking at me. Wait, you want me to feel an emotion that I'm not feeling? It's not that easy, but it's so much fun. And the best comparison I always make is when little kids are playing, because I have a lot of the kids, when they're playing, they're not thinking about the playing. They're not thinking about, I don't really feel like Spider-Man, or this stick isn't a wand. No, they full on believe it and they enjoy it. That's what actors have to do. They have to stop worrying so much and just start to enjoy the process. But make no mistake, it is not easy. And the people that come to me and they're just like, no experience, I want an agent. I'm like, well, can you do this? Can you do that? Can you cry on command? They're just, wait, what? It, it, it's it's a slow process. But if you enjoy it, each thing you learn is like a pleasurable. It's like a cool thing. I mean, acting is the coolest job in the world, I think. It's really like if you can make money at this, how could you want to do anything else? But you do have to invest time, unfortunately, money, and how to you've got to learn how to say like, I don't care. I don't care that people are watching me. I don't care that I'm being judged. The main reason actors are insecure, like in class, is because they don't want to look bad. They don't want to look stupid. They don't want to sound stupid. It always comes down to that. And at
Mhm.
some point, I tell everyone, you've got to get over that or at least confront it because every actor is going to look stupid at some point. I make my actors do ridiculous things to shatter that invisible wall that holds them. And I say, look at Jim Carrey. You think he cares how he acts in front of people? He's a lunatic. But it doesn't matter because you've got to be able to play other people who are not you. And other people do silly things. Other people fall. Other people say dumb things. Other people look like fools. Okay, that's the character I'm playing. It's not you. And you can find the freedom sometimes in that. But if you're afraid to look stupid or sound stupid, this is not the business for you.
What are some examples of things that people can do to kind of help shatter that? As you said, you have some exercises that your students.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, I make people do a scene as an
Okay.
animal who speaks English. I make people do scenes as aliens. I make people do scenes as opposite gender. I make people I've had them in class for a while, do scenes as other people in the class. Um,
Cool.
it's just a matter of knowing it's okay to be silly.
Mhm.
It's okay to look ridiculous. It's okay. And what's funny is when you watch people in movies and TV who are just like totally not who they are, you appreciate it. You laugh at them, you respect them. But some people are so preconditioned not to look dumb or what have you that it really keeps them in. And I don't rush anybody. It's a slow process, and I try to get you comfortable. And as you get comfortable, you slowly start to blossom. When you realize, oh, this isn't so bad, and we're all in the same boat, and we're just playing a character, your confidence level rises, and your fears and insecurities shrink, and it gets easier. And it gets
Nice.
easier. Now, I also want to say this. It's super easy for me to say this. Don't be shy. Don't be inhabited. Go. And it's not so easy to do it. I know that. Um, but it is part of becoming an actor, becoming an actress. You've got to lose those inhibitions.
Mhm. Yeah. No, I mean, it's definitely hard. One little thing that I've recommended occasionally to people is like get together with some friends, kind of like try to put on some sort of scene for them
Hmm.
and then purposefully like forget your lines and don't tell them. Like you could at least pretend that you forgot your lines and then sit in that mess up and be like,
Hmm.
oh, it's okay. It's not the end of the world here.
Yeah,
Um,
for
but I
sure.
also loved when you mentioned about kids, like having that, you were talking about like, oh, pretending that the wands are real and they just believe that they're real. And it
Yeah.
made me kind of think because I have a 5-year-old son and it's like the imagination. If you have a nephew or kid or any young kid that like 5 to 8 years old or something, try actually hanging out with them and playing whatever game that they're playing
Hmm.
and try actually like really just imagining that it's real and getting
Yeah.
as into it as possible. That
Yeah.
might be an interesting exercise
Yeah.
to.
I've had a class where I bring in a bag of toys, Barbie dolls, action figures, bow and arrows, toy gun, and I say, we're going to play. We're going to drop down in age and we are going to play. And if they can remember how much fun and freedom they had as children, that's what I try to make sure you don't lose because you need to still have that as an adult to do this.
That's awesome. I love it.
Yeah, for
Well,
sure.
that leads to my final question, which is, can you tell us a little bit about your acting school, where you're
Sure.
based? And well, we talked about that earlier,
Sure, sure, sure.
but what makes your classes different than some other acting classes out
Yeah,
there?
yeah, absolutely. So we are, for one, a school for film and television, which means that is what we specialize in. It doesn't mean that we are like we're no theater. In fact, our school does do plays, and like I said, all my training is theater training. Um, but right now we're a school for film and television. A lot of schools don't do that. We don't do like musical theater or anything like that. We're a very real world school. When I say I'm in the business 30 years, I take my knowledge of the industry, which I'm still heavily embedded in, and I bring that to my classes with the acting techniques. We learn acting and we learn the acting business. Very few schools teach the business. Even in colleges, theater majors, they don't really know what to do post graduation. So we teach the ropes of the industry as well as the acting. And we have workshops with agents and managers and casting directors all year long. Another thing that makes us different is we do a lot of films. We do short films, also feature films that are just LaGuardia students. We don't cast them. We make them with our students to give our students an understanding of what it's like to be on a set, what it's like to be in front of the camera, what it's like to know that I got to show up and have all these scenes memorized tomorrow, because that's what you need to do in the real world. So one of the things that really separates us is I teach everything from a real world perspective. There are definitely better teachers out there for like Meisner and method. If you were focused on just learning that, then they're definitely better schools than me. But what I've done is I've taken the whatever works concept and little bits and pieces from a lot of different methods of acting, kind of like MMA, and I mix that with what I know the real world wants. I deal with industry agents, managers every week, and I try to teach them in accordance to the concept that if you want to do this, and not everybody wants to do it professionally, but I train everyone as if they did, because you have to know there's a certain path, certain things people are going to expect of you and want from you, and that's the way we teach everyone.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Love it.
Thank
Well,
you.
I definitely appreciate your time today. I'm going to
Thank
include
you.
your contact info as well on the side
Awesome.
so that anybody who's listening to this can find out more about your studio.
Cool.
But yeah,
Appreciate it.
thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today.
Thank you. Thank you for doing things like this to reach out and help actors. And it's a really amazing thing that you do. So I thank you.
Well, thanks for listening. Now, if you want to dive even deeper on getting acting work and auditions, I highly recommend checking out my podcast called The Secret Steps Casting Directors Take When Choosing Who to Invite to Auditions, which is episode number 113. You're going to learn a ton about the casting process and the changes that you can make to start getting more self-tape requests pretty quickly. Okay, so check it out. Again, it's episode number 113, The Secret Steps Casting Directors Take When Choosing Who to Invite to Auditions on the Actor's Career Compass. By the way, I want to thank Patience Parrott for leaving a really kind review on the podcast. The review said, "I love this podcast. I went from knowing very little about how to audition to knowing exactly what to do when I get a chance. I'm very much a beginner still, but thanks to the Actor's Career Compass, I know more about where to start. I can't recommend it enough." If you found the podcast helpful, I would really appreciate if you could leave a review, as it does help other actors find the podcast as well. Just go to ratethispodcast.com/actor success. I'll try to read your review aloud in an upcoming episode. Thanks so much, and I'll see you soon.